to this race in a second because they are on the way to both. But what's happening is that your eye is like a zoom on a camera. As you get closer to the finish, you're going tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, looking at the noses, and then something on the periphery of shot, the bloke throws his arms up in the air, and you flinch, and you've missed the line. I'm thinking, I've missed the line. I haven't a clue what's won. So if you like,
but you,
yeah, I know, but it was a bit.
But what you did.
Was blamed him.
What you did was you hung the responsibility of calling the result on Mikel Barcelona.
Well, I wasn't sure he'd won or not, so that was the only thing I could think of doing in the. But there is what felt like a long pause. You can hear it. So anyway, and here is another long pause as we set the race up for this 4-runner 7:35. Right, 4 runners at the start for this contest, for which number 3 London Citizen doesn't run, leaves a field of 4. Glass Office is the odds-on 5-6 favourite here, returning to Kempton, the soul of his only previous racecourse success. Second favourite is Hipster at 2-1, Ocean Applause 7s, and Claude Greenwood at 10-1. Glass Office, once victorious, that was at Kempton, as I mentioned, moved into novice company, was beaten by Havana Gold, who would have gone close in France the other day, but for decanting Ryan Moore close home. Disappointing run over 7, back to 6. Is this your analogy in reverse? Your 6 furlong horse stepped up to 7 furlong horse, got beaten twice, he's back at 6.
Well, no,
okay, it doesn't work that way. Right? Okay.
But I'm surprised Glass Office is that short, though. I mean, I can see why people would fancy the horse in terms of back to the surface, has run well. Okay, that I mean, with excuses as well at Goodwood. But where did the even money come from? Where did the odds on come from?
Well, do you feel there's a paucity of opposition in a couple of cases? Maybe Ocean Applause and Claude Greenwood. Had Ocean Applause as a slight query on the ground. Hipster's win might have been slightly aided by conditions at Epsom. He backed the race. It's a painful race for me because I had a decent bet on the second.
Right.
George Baker, so I know the race very well. Suspicion he got the rail, clung onto it on a soft ground.
And the second was one off the rail, wasn't it? And
yes.
they went tooth and nail, didn't they, from about a furlong out.
And every time I watch it, there's points where I still think he's going to win. He doesn't.
But they motored clear, didn't they? They were 5 lengths clear.
Yes.
Of Ain't Got a Scooby.
That was his first. Who won today? So Cheap Pieces were on first time then. They're still on again today. So it's really the price that puts you off, is it?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think generally, although I really enjoy looking at 2-year-old, I think nurseries are very tricky. I think they've got a similar chance, those two.
Okay, 4 runners, and Simon's back in the commentary box.
4 runners, and they're off over 6 furlongs. Glass Office, the grey towards the inside. Ocean Applause is galvanised in the early stages by Brett Doyle, but it's Claude Greenwood that leads the way in the maroon sleeves. Jimmy Fortune in the saddle from Ocean Applause. Hipster to the outside, and at the back is Glass Office as they run into the bottom bend. Claude Greenwood by a length and a tail to Ocean Applause in second place. Glass Office now moving up towards the inside. The pace looks pretty modest here inside the final half mile, though Hipster is already coming off the bridle round that turn. So Claude Greenwood by about a length to Ocean Applause, Glass Office, and Hipster, who's not really travelled around that bend. Inside the final 3 furlongs now, and they're homeward bound, and Claude Greenwood still out in front from in second place Ocean Applause, who's nudged along by Brett Doyle. Glass Office waiting for the cutaway, seemingly under William Buick on the far side, and now he's got space for a manoeuvre. Claude Greenwood leads. Here comes Glass Office on the attack on the far side. Ocean Applause, and Hipster is sticking on well, the first off the bridle, but coming home as good as anything. Glass Office from Hipster. These two, they race up towards the line. Glass Office finding a little bit more now, and Glass Office pulls away to win in the hands of William Buick. Hipster second, then Ocean Applause, and finally Claude Greenwood.
Glass Office has won. The stewards may have a look, but I'm afraid the winning margin between first and second is too great for any hope that you may have of it being reversed. That's probably the weakest point of our rules, actually. I know some people feel they're too, much in favour of the winner anyway. But when you lose momentum like that, it is going to cost you, when they're really at full pelt, it's going to cost you a significant margin. The chances of you rallying and closing strongly aren't great. Hipster took a long time to find that momentum as well, but this is where Glass Office drifts across. He's clear of the first horse, Claude Greenwood, but there definitely is a bump there. But Glass Office strides the line. But Hipster clearly is the sort of horse that takes a while to get going, and he's got no chance. He probably wouldn't have won anyway, but nonetheless, he's not going to pick up and close.
Well, the interesting thing about the Epsom race, the way that they surged clear over 6 on soft ground, I remember at the time thinking that 7 would be the logical place to go.
Yes.
With Hipster. So, in a 4-runner race round here over 6,
there is a Stewart's inquiry, just to let you know.
For all that the surface is a bit slow, I think maybe that's the last time we'll see Hipster over 6.
Yeah, I agree.
I must admit, I'm a big fan. I'm a big defender of the rules as we have them in this country.
Yes.
I can completely understand. In every legal system, every law, there isn't a perfect legal system in operation. There are always cases of hard cheddar, basically. That's not a legal expression, obviously. But I much prefer what we've got. My goodness.
France. Well, and certainly in my time in Hong Kong as well. I think at times, I just don't want stewards playing God. A lot of times there'd be incidents a long way out in Hong Kong and they'd say, well, look, it cost you more than the winning margin. But who knows, because it might have been you got checked when the pace was really strong and actually did you a favour. The instance in this is where I think they're most penal in a way, because there have been a couple of cases where Opinion Poll actually was a really good example in the Gold Cup. Commentating, looking down on him, he was like a boxer that was beginning to tire, and that bump absolutely emptied him. It was like knocking the last stuffing out of him, and it had a crucial impact. And yet, in other circumstances, a similar bump wouldn't have done, and that really costs a lot of momentum when they're quickening, and it's taking him ages to get going. There's no way that sort of profile horse is going to pick up. But the problem is you cannot make rules that are capable of taking into account all the variables.
No, exactly. But the other thing as well, I'm going to take issue with the phrase stewards playing God, in the sense that I believe stewards, experienced professional stewards, have that's what they're there for, to use their experience, their ability to interpret a race and to use their judgment. We're not looking at sort of gin-swilling old dodderers anymore, are we, if we ever did? And so I would much rather a steward look at a race and interpret it, albeit with the guideline that the winner is favoured unless there is compelling evidence to turn things round, rather than just simply...
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. If you like, our guidelines are quite strict in allowing them the scope. It's not like other jurisdictions. They are allowed loads of scope to say, what I meant by playing God was like the half length at the 3 furlong pole all of a sudden gets magnified, and all of a sudden the horse would have won by 3 or 4 lengths. At least in our rules, they are tight. However, having said that, anyone who saw the decision at Fosslands the other day would feel that, that they still are.
I didn't see that.
I personally disagree with it, obviously, even saying that, but I thought it was a pretty cast iron throw out for Little Dutch Girl, even under the current rules with the horse rallying. But it's always a matter of opinion. The key point I think you made, maybe it's something we'll chat about a little bit more, is the professional steward bit.
Right.
In this day and age, I just think the bane of all stewarding is inconsistency, isn't it?
Yeah.
For punting point
Absolutely.
of view. And jockeys, everyone.
Yeah, of course.
And so if you like, the easiest way of getting rid of inconsistency is to reduce the number of people that are involved. And the easiest way of doing that is to centralise stewarding, which I know Paul Bitar is in favour of, which I'm personally in agreement with. In this day and age, you can give evidence and you can have... So when you and I start work and we're on a panel, there's 2 different panels. The first thing we do when we sit in the morning is we have a look at the steward's inquiries from the day before, everywhere. It's all on computer. And we've got every incident logged. So we say, hang on a second, Dave, that was quite similar to that Beverley one we saw the other day. Let's have a look at that, let's compare it. And it's done using technology rather than, the set of stewards turning up at Fontwell are unlikely to know what's gone on at Hexham the day before under the current scenario. And I just think that if you want to get rid of consistency, centralised stewarding is a very good way to go, personally. I just think that's... If you believe consistency is the most important...
If you want to increase consistency...
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I completely agree. Well, and certainly I also think that another part of racing rules, and one which I've been vocal over the last year, is the whip regulations, whereby there is one panel who are able to communicate with people at the track via the telephone, which was invented a long time ago now, where they can communicate with the practitioners, the jockeys, and in cases of the whip, might not even have to come up with a ruling that afternoon or that evening.
No, I think that's right. I don't think any reason that the issue that was put to me for that was that if you wanted to defend yourself, if you stacked them all up and had a court day when you all turned up one at a time, that it would be difficult logistically for jockeys to come in and out, and which may be the case. But I agree with you. I think if you specialise in anything, you become more consistent.
Yeah.
If you widen the remit, but
and of course, people, it's. Inconsistency in all sports is a dirty word, isn't it? Umpiring, refereeing at football, but of course, consistency stroke inconsistency is born out of discretion, and it is entirely it can only be a good thing that trained, competent officials are allowed to use discretion, because otherwise you head down a nonsense where you say, you hit him right, he's out. Well, that obviously doesn't make sense.
I think I don't have any problem if that was done at the first instance, but then you had a centralised panel that everyone appealed to, if you like.
Yeah.
Because to some extent, counting the strokes made it a bit easier for everyone to interpret things. But it's a trade-off between discretion and consistency, isn't it? And one or the other. Just to say, the reason we're not showing the head-on over and over again is we just don't believe the result will change. So we can show it to you again if you really would like it. Email and tell us, by which time the result would have stood. But these are how they passed the post. Glass Office 5-6 favourite beat Hipster 2-1. I was broadcasting somewhere where I did say that I thought the Foss Lass would be turned round, so I'm not going to hang my hat on Glass Office keeping it, but I promise you I would be pretty certain.
I mean, the other problem with the whip thing though was, and this was my one of many gripes against what happened, was that numbers, I didn't agree with the numbers, but numbers were everything. Like, it just doesn't make any sense that 6 or 7 or 10 strokes from one rider, like the force, at the time, no one paid any. The force wasn't in the regulations.
Yeah.
I see some jockeys, and I'm not going to name them.
That was the danger of making a certain number of strokes as well. I mean, I don't want to revisit all the whip thing again.
No.
I mean, but to be fair, the initial jockey stance changed substantially from wanting clarity.
Well, yeah.
to not. Unfortunately, they didn't seem to quite represent. In the early stages, it didn't appear that they were representing the groundswell of opinion.
I'm not an apologist for the jockey. I thought the jockeys. There were only 2 people that I agreed with everything they said, really, and they were actually. And there were 2 people that I spoke to quite a lot about it. One was Ryan Moore, and the other was Ruby Walsh, who believed the same things I did. And so, there were so many jockeys' opinions. They were being interviewed by different media outlets, and it was just like herding cats at the time. God, that was frustrating.
Yes. Okay. Well, we'll put the whip behind us, and we've got a few more emails, so we'll bring you those in a moment or two.
The Welcome to Yorkshire Ebor Festival. And they're off. 4 days of sporting excellence filled with glamour and passion.
This is as good as it gets.
Including the richest race York has ever staged, the Group 1 Juddmonte International.
Twice over at midday, dive for the line together, and it's twice over at Juddmonte International.
And showcasing some of the world's finest fillies in the darling Yorkshire Oaks.
Another Group 1 for Blue Bunty, the Tory Stripes.
Featuring the fastest race of the week,